Hey comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready for the return of the countdown. That's right guys, we are on episode number 139. It's been a very long time since I've done a countdown, but me being back on this channel, I decided to bring all the series that I did in the past back. So we return to the countdown, just like it always went, right? So if you're not familiar with the countdown, this is the video series where each and every week, or as often as I can, I will take a top 10 of comics that I read for the week and count them down for you and give you my thoughts on each comic book. So, with description being said, let's get started with this week's comics. So, top 10. My number 10 book that I read this week was, and my least favorite and worst pick, was Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, issue number 33. This is otherwise known as Twilight of the Guardians, Part 1. This book was not very fun for me. In fact, it was very boring for most of the time. We get the Guardians that are running around, they're jabbering away, their narration was very boring. They're talking about this young Guardian, or this young Green Lantern, who is his son of the guy who got killed. And they're talking about how to use his powers and things like that. And I just found that there was a lot of unnecessary dialogue for this book by the time you wind up getting to the end of it, because we wind up seeing that our Guardians that we're familiar with wind up being captured by these creatures known by the Controllers, and they're supposed to mean something. I'm not familiar with them. If they were in previous Green Lantern stories, let me know. But again, I found this book very uneventful, and by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, do I care about these Controllers? So it wasn't very exciting for me. I can't sit there and say I recommend this book this week to you guys. You might want to skip this actual storyline this time. So I'm going to just say don't pick it up at this point in time. Alright, so we're going to move on to number 9. And my number 9 book this week is, and you guys may not agree with me this time around, but it's, boom, Batman Creature of the Night, Book 1. Not that this is a poor concept for a book or even a bad story, but for me, in my opinion, this just doesn't float my boat. This is not what I look forward to, I guess, when I read comic books. I thought the story was pretty good, but unfortunately for me, it just was too repetitive and too long, and I don't like narration written in cursive. It kind of takes me out of the story a little bit. It is very creative, but I just found that, again, I just couldn't maybe read the writing as it would be if it was in print. So that took me out of it. The artwork wasn't my favorite artwork. All the colors seemed to blend in together, which took me out of the story as well. And how many times do I have this young Bruce going to Commissioner Gordon about this, about his parents' death, if they found, they solved the mystery or the case. It just, again, seemed very repetitive for me. I thought it was a very imaginative story, and I thought it was different to see this type of Bruce where he has a Commissioner Gordon that's not supportive and that he's not wanted, this Bruce, and things like that. But it fell flat for me. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be picking up the next book. I just felt it wasn't worth my money. You guys may think differently, and that's fine. I had no problem with it. It just wasn't my cup of tea this time around. So for me, it's not worth the pickup. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 8. And number 8 for me this week, unfortunately as well, was Venom issue number 158. Even though I enjoyed this issue this time around, same thing, I just felt like it was a very rushed ending. We get to see Kraven fight these dinosaurs all over again, and we get one of the dinosaur creatures winds up giving Eddie the the medication that he needs to survive so he doesn't go crazy. He winds up breaking free, and we wind up him, you know, it just winds up ending. You know, Shriek winds up getting, what's it called? Winds up getting captured or whatnot, and Kraven winds up leaving, and we see that Lee Price winds up getting released from jail, and it leaves some things up in the air, but the story just abruptly ended. There just seemed no added depth to Kraven's character by the time we get to the end of it. And, you know, and I wanted some more of that. And same with Shriek. She just made her appearance, but there was no depth or no real purpose to her character in the particular issue. I think what's going to go forward here is this whole Lee Price situation on how maybe possibly he's going to get his symbiote back, on what is going to make it a more interesting story. The artwork by Mark Bagley is absolutely superb. You can expect nothing less but 5-star artwork from his artwork. I mean, inside it looks good. The coloring looks good. I just felt like there could have been more towards the end of the story besides, you know, Kraven capturing a couple of creatures and then him off being on his way. So it's really what I got out of it. So the beginning of the story was much better than the end. So again, take it or leave it for what it's worth. I'm still picking up issue Venom series. So issue 158, you know, take it or leave it. All right, moving on to number 7. And number 7 this week goes to the Injustice 2 Annual Issue number 1. I thought this book was pretty good. The only drawback that it has is that you see Diana's origin in this book from when she was on Themyscira, and it looks like it's pretty much based off of the movie. So that's where I felt like it lacked a little bit. You know, you get to see her struggle, and she gets sent off to war, and she teams up with Steve Trevor, and so you've seen all that. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of that particular story in this issue, that's where you get the payoff. That's when you see what happens. You wind up seeing Steve Trevor get frustrated with the war, and him and Diana wind up going to Themyscira to retrieve the Lasso of Truth, because in this story, Wonder Woman doesn't have it. So they go to Themyscira because they know that's available, and Steve Trevor winds up killing one of her sisters, and she winds up getting that Lasso of Truth from Steve, and she gets the true truth from him, and Wonder Woman winds up killing Steve Trevor. So that's what was cool in this story. The beginning of it, again, very repetitive. Then you wind up getting the second story about Harley before Injustice 2, how she had this crew that she worked with, and they kind of split up because their tasks have been done. But then we wind up finding out that the Suicide Squad was after them, and it was the Suicide Squad C team, which was hilarious. And you wind up seeing them all get killed by the A Suicide Squad team, or you see the Ace team kill the Suicide... No, I'm sorry, I got that confused. There's too many freaking Suicide Squads. There's a C team, probably a B team, and an A team. The A team winds up killing Harley's horde to find out where her base is. The end. Pretty good story. I recommend it. This was a fun read for an annual. There you go. Number 6 this week is Wolverine, or I'm sorry, Old Man Logan, issue number 31. Lenticular cover this time around. This time it has to do with Silver Samurai. We wind up having Mike Deodato Jr.'s artwork in this book, which is good. I feel that it fits a Wolverine book. Wolverine tends to be a darker character, so I feel that it fits. Wolverine comes across these characters that wind up regenerating their limbs, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? You wind up finding out that the man in charge is the Silver Samurai, and Wolverine winds up finding out that that's who it is as well. But at the same time, we wind up finding out that we have the Hand that's involved. They wind up getting in a fight with the Silver Samurai. Silver Samurai winds up dying, and then you wind up seeing that there's a new samurai in town called the Scarlet Samurai, and now the Scarlet Samurai is in charge of the Hand and all the underground drug trafficking that's going on. So it meant for an interesting story because I want to see who the Scarlet Samurai is. The paneling in this book is pretty interesting as well. I love the paneling in this book, so that's cool too. So you got pretty good paneling, good artwork, interesting story. Can't wait to see where it goes. So I say definitely pick this book up, guys. All right. Next, we're going to have the number 5 book this week, and that goes to Heavy Vinyl issue number 4, the conclusion to the miniseries, otherwise known as Hi-Fi Fight Club, if you guys don't know the title of this book. We get to see the conclusion to this case that happens as the girls are trying to figure out what happened to a particular band member by the name of Rosie. They wind up finding her. She is part of the Hi-Fi Fight Club group. You know, this underground fighting club group with girls, which you thought that's pretty cool. You thought it was just maybe the 4 or 5 of these girls, but it winds up being much more than that. It's a larger group. And we find out that in this mystery that music enterprises are using this microscopic chip to actually find out, you know, to brainwash fans into buying record albums, which I thought was pretty cool. But what makes Hi-Fi Fight Club is not really necessarily the plot, but the character development. And that's what you get in this story. You get good character development from all the characters, especially Chris and Maggie. And you get a sum up of what happens to all the characters a few weeks into the future when the story actually ends. And which leads you to believe that there'll be future stories of Heavy Vinyl, because it's a very well written book and the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. The colors are really nice. The only thing why this didn't fall higher up in my actual list this time around is that I felt that for a final issue that this book was rushed and it concluded very fast. And I would love to see more storylines here develop. This could have been maybe a 6-issue instead of a 4-issue type of thing. And I would love to see more of it. And in case you didn't know, this takes place in the early 90s, which I thought is pretty awesome if you grew up in that time frame. So if you haven't read Heavy Vinyl, wait for it on trade and read it all at once. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy the character development here. So Heavy Vinyl number 4, definitely pick it up. All right. Number 4 this week goes to X-Men Blue issue number 16. We're all done with the Mojo world. Now our teams get split up in here. And we find out that Magneto is just experiencing all these types of migraines and all this bullshit that's going on. And we find out that different characters are being, you know, taken out of the board from the time streams all messed up. And we find out that that these X-Men, this is confusing because this is like a time stream issue, that the young X-Men being misplaced in time is messing with the time stream. So that's why Magneto has built this time machine to send them back. And he's been getting actual thoughts from Professor Xavier in his brain to do this. And we get to see Polaris disappear. We get to see Danger disappear. And it's quite interesting. There's some good character moments in this book with Beast and Jean, which I thought was really cool. And maybe Cyclops and what's her name? And Bloodstorm in here. I thought the artwork was nice. The coloring is really good in here as well. So this was a good book to look at. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, we wind up finding out that all our young X-Men agree to go back in time to go back to where they came from. But not only did you get to see cool little things in this book from X-Men's past, which is pretty cool. You wind up getting to see like the Jean Grey wedding and stuff like that. Apocalypse in there. But they go to the future, which is 2099 future. And you wind up seeing the X-Men 2099 group, which I thought was pretty neat. So I didn't expect that there. I wanted to fall higher on my list, but I wasn't sure how I felt about this 2099 X-Men, if I was going to enjoy that storyline or not. I was like, I was expecting maybe something a little bit different here. But we'll see where it goes. I like the issue. I definitely say pick this book up, guys. So, X-Men number 16, X-Men Blue. All right, now we're in our top 3, and our number 3 book of the week goes to Darkhawk issue number 51. Only a one-shot for now, but the way they make this book is it looks like it sets up for things to come in the future for Darkhawk. Maybe not necessarily his own individual series yet, but if this series sells, you could get a future Darkhawk book. But it looks like that Chris is going to be in maybe other books like Guardians of the Galaxy or things like that. This book is weird. It's twisted. The only thing that its drawback is that it gives you a ton of information on where Chris has been, what he's been up to, what the amulet's doing, why he doesn't have access, where he's gone, who his enemies are. It's an overload clusterfuck of information. And you have to read this book many times. But it takes you back to his origin, which is really cool, to his origin place when he actually got the amulet. And the artwork is pretty good in this book, guys. We can see this page right here, which is really nice. Good coloring in here. It has me excited for Darkhawk again. And I haven't read him since the 90s, and it's great to see that. So I'm looking forward to this book. So if you're a Darkhawk fan and you miss the character, you miss Chris Powell, I definitely say pick this book up. You could have a future for it. All right. So now we're going to go on to number 2. And number 2 is Manifest Destiny, issue number 32. This has been in my top 5 in a long time, guys. So in this issue, you wind up finding about a girl that's in part of this, part of the crew. And I think her name was it Louise? Let me find out real quick. Irene, I'm sorry. Her name is Irene. The narration in this book takes place in French. And she's writing a letter in French about what she plans to do to this specific character. Now, Lewis and Clark era, this is when they traveled the world and they wound up finding all these supernatural or all these creatures that wind up killing them all. Well, this one guy, he winds up actually losing his leg, but he wound up like molesting or raping this young girl. And so throughout the issue, like I said, in French, you see it in narration that she plans on doing whatever to this guy. But you don't know that when you're reading the issue, unless you obviously know what read French. And so as you look through the pictures in this book, you wind up seeing what she does. And what happens is she winds up killing the guy at the end of the issue, which was really awesome to see. When you get to the letters page, you get to read the translated narration in English on all her thoughts and her planning on how to kill this guy and what she went through and what she felt. And she felt that the time was now to do it. Really well done issue, really well constructed. Best issue of Manifest Destiny, in my opinion, in a long time. If you guys haven't read this series, you can pick it up in trade. I definitely recommend this one. Really good stuff here by Chris Dingus and Matthew Roberts. Artwork is really well done. Coloring fits kind of like the timeline in this book. Very well done book. Awesome. Awesome read. All right. And my number 1 book this week goes to Kill or Be Killed, issue number 14. This book continues to impress me each and every week. As we get to see Dylan kind of go full circle with all these Russians. He winds up killing these Russians. He sets a plan in place to actually get the Russians away from the main boss. And we wind up seeing him go, and he winds up killing the main Russian mob boss guy, which I thought was really cool. And then by the time you get closer to the end of this issue, you wind up seeing, you know what? Why can't I stop this vigilante stuff? I could stop it. Everything that I wanted to do is done. The bad people are gone. The Russians are gone. They're not causing problems anymore. I can have a normal life. And then he's like, well, maybe then I'll be bored. He's like, maybe I just want to stop people from doing bad things. And so his girlfriend, Kira, winds up getting his files on his brother, and his brother wound up committing suicide. And they never knew the real reason why he committed suicide. She winds up getting these letters, and she finds the file, and she reads through it, and she goes, yeah. She's like, funny thing, you know, right before your brother committed suicide, he wound up seeing a shadow beast with horns. And Dylan's like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Because this has been the whole thing that he's seen. This creature, this demon, has been causing him to cause all these murders to start with, to begin with. This is why he started killing people. And he saw this image, and it said, you have to kill a soul every month to stay alive. And when he thought he was over this disease, that it was just a thing in his thought, that how could his brother see the same freaking image before he died? So there's something much more to this demon creature than meets the eye. And I was like, damn. I'm like, what the hell is going on now? So Ed Brubaker is just tearing it up with this series. It's one of my favorite series of the year. This is why it's had to get my #1 pick. I think the artwork is really well done. The coloring is well done. The narration is beautiful because he talks to the reader in this book. You know, when he zones out, you can see that he's not listening to people. And then all of a sudden he gets this realization that this demon is affecting the whole family. It affected his dad. It affected his brother. It's affecting him. Like, what is going on here? So maybe it is a supernatural thing after all. So really great book. I definitely say I recommend to pick that book up. And there you have it, guys. There is the countdown for the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You've seen it all the way from the worst to the best. Now it's your turn in the comments below to tell me what you thought was your favorite pick of the week and what your worst pick of the week was. And fans, as always, thank you so much for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And don't forget, every Tuesday night you can head over to Comic Frontline and check out our live stream that takes place 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching. And until that next comic book review, it's Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, guys. Bye.